So let's look at the stats from my evergreen webinar before versus my live webinar now. Before I went to a live webinar funnel, my automated webinar sign-up page was converting really high at 60%. And because it was instant access, 90% of people were attending. But the average time in the webinar was only 10 minutes. The average completion rate was only 10%. And the average conversion rate, percentage of attendees who bought, was at 1.1 to 2%, but had dropped to 0.5%. After my rebuild, my live webinar sign-up page converts at just 30 to 35%. This is a significant drop, but likely because it's only available during one time slot because it's live and it's not instant access. And industry averages are only 20 to 30% anyway, so I'm pretty happy with this number. My attendance rate ranges between 30 and 40% depending on how many registrants came from cold ads versus a warm audience that week, as well as depending on the week, it just fluctuates. I don't have a way to compute average time in the webinar since we're using Zoom, but I do know that roughly 80% of people are still present when we start the pitch at about 45 minutes in. 60% are still present when we start the Q&A at about 55 to 60 minutes, and a whopping 30 to 40% are still hanging out when we wrap up, which varies, the time varies on this from an hour and 20 to an hour and 30, depending on how many questions we've had. 90% of my sales come in either during Q&A or in 1 to 3 hours after the class is over, likely because of the fast action bonuses that I offer. And my conversion rate, the number of sales from attendees, ranges from 8 to 18%, depending mostly on how warm the audience is, but most weeks with a very cold audience, it's still falling at the 10% mark.